part of the problem that hurt me in the beginning. Well, I guess I heard on one of your podcasts that they only did 45-minute rides in the beginning. And I'd always try to do 45 minutes and it would knock me out. And then I'd need like 3 days off. And then that fourth day, I'm like, I'm not going back. And you start the cycle again of, just getting bad habits. So there's no shame in starting with the beginner classes, doing only 10, 15 minutes of whatever you feel is good. And you'll see yourself building up and, coming back and being able to do more and more.
It's more than just your output, more than a bike. When you hear your shout out, you know it's all right. Put on your magic pants and let's go. We're cruising into the power zone. Clip in, set yourself free. Come on and take a ride with me. You know what you need to know and what's it all about. Everything you need, it's on the Clip Out.
Welcome to the Clip Out, episode 188. This is Crystal O'Keefe.
And this is Tom O'Keefe. We are back.
Woo! Happy New Year! As of the time that this airs, it will be officially 2021. I have never been so happy to say goodbye to a year. This is it. I'm excited.
I hope so. I'm such a pragmatist. I'm like, it's just a calendar.
No, it's not just a calendar. There's a lot of things we're putting behind us.
Hopefully.
No, it's
So
not a hopefully.
I shouldn't hope for it?
It's not a hopefully. It's happening, Tom.
Oh, okay.
We're going to will it into existence because that is how I do things.
Okay.
I will them into existence.
Then why'd you let this year happen in the first place,
I didn't
honey?
see it coming, man.
Why'd you let it happen?
I didn't see it coming. If I had seen it coming, I
You'd have
would have
baked a
willed
cake.
that shit out.
Oh,
I wish I had that power. Wouldn't that be nice?
you wouldn't be with me. And I'd be exercising all the time. If you had that sort of power, you'd be like
touche.
You'd be like Samantha on Bewitched. You'd crinkle your nose. And next thing you know, I'd be on a Peloton.
Ding, 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 ding.
So before we get into things too much, we should talk about on the last episode. We talked about the word deaf versus the phrase hearing impaired.
Yes.
And so we were under the mistaken impression that hearing impaired was the more polite or acceptable form, and there was apparently a period of time where that was true, but that is not the case. That people who are deaf actually do prefer to be called deaf.
Yep.
And so that was our bad. Well, thanks to people, we had a couple different people pointed out to us very politely.
You know what? I would like to kind of, can we just hold on that for a second? Because, there have been times that people have corrected us time to time. And just to be clear, I never mind that ever. But I will say that when people approach it the way they approach this, it is so much more delightful.
Yes.
So much more. Thank you.
They were very polite. And I think because our heart was in the right place, we thought we were saying the right thing.
We really did.
We weren't. And so I did some digging because I just wanted to find out why that is. So and we had other people ask like, well, why is that? That seems like that would be the nicer thing to say. But for a lot of people, being deaf is actually like, it's almost like an ethnicity or it's a culture, right? And sometimes when they even capitalize the D, right? And sorry, I'm just making a capital D joke in my head. And
I saw it. I could see you doing that.
Trying to keep it respectful given the topic at hand.
You should.
But deaf people like the D too. Sorry, there's only so much you can expect from me.
Oh my goodness.
But anyway, and so they feel like they prefer deaf, or for people that are on a spectrum of hearing loss, hard of hearing is preferred over hearing impaired.
Yeah,
so,
it's kind of fascinating. I had no idea.
Yeah, totally.
So thank you to everyone who reached out and educated us so politely.
Yeah, and we posted about this in the group, but since we said it on an episode, we figure we should correct it on an episode.
Absolutely.
So, ta-da.
Yeah.
Now that we've gotten that out of the way.
Happy New Year again.
Happy New Year again. And what do you have in store for people?
Oh my gosh, we have so much to catch up on because even though Peloton instructors kind of had some time off, Peloton had lots of surprises in store. So we're going to talk about that. There are a bunch of things to cover, and John Mills is back, so we're going to have that. Jenn Mann is on the show, so we're going to have that. And of course, our awesome interview. So lots to get to.
Awesome. Well, before we get to all that, shameless plugs, don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you are getting your podcasts from. You can find find us.
Oh,
hang on. The shameless plugs have been interrupted.
Well, people are always asking, how can they help us?
How can they help us?
I just want to point out that one thing that can help us is
a shoebox full of 20s.
I mean, I would always say yes to that. But in seriousness, the thing that people can do to help us is like when we post in the OPP, go out there and like it. Yeah. Because what happens is I post and it takes like 6 hours to get approved or something like that. And then it just sinks down.
Just sinks.
Bloop, 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 bloop. Yeah. So if you guys go and like it and you comment on it, it keeps it bubbling back up. Yeah. And the thing is, there's so many people that are new to the community. They have no idea.
Especially at this time of year.
Yeah, they don't know that we exist. So educate them. Share the episode. Like our post. You don't have to like it everywhere. Just in the OPP. You know,
yeah. I mean, you can like it.
You can absolutely, but I'm not assigning you homework.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, it doesn't need to become a full-time job.
Right.
And I know from posting it, it can become a full-time job.
It can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Continue on with your shoebox.
Okay. So we're a shoebox full of 20s. Is that where I was at?
That's where
also,
you were.
If that's too much for you, a shoebox full of 5s or 10s, that's also acceptable.
Shoebox of pennies.
Right. Well, it seems like the shipping would make that not worth their while. But
I'm thinking we're not getting any shoebox
I don't think
of
we
anything.
are either. So seriously though, where was I at? Shameless plugs. Apple Podcasts. Oh, rate, review. We have a new review.
Yay! Man, I am pumped. Having some time off, really, I feel refreshed. We should take some time off more often.
This is from Auburn Guy 1982 says, love the podcast. I love this podcast as one of the original comeback recipients, thanks to an XXL Tribe post about the program. I started listening a few years ago as I transitioned from app rider to Peloton owner. I sincerely miss my Friday commute due to this podcast and COVID, but I love to listen and catch up whenever I can. This couple is amazing, and it's funny that my wife and I are completely opposite, as I'm the Peloton obsessed one.
Aww.
Great show. Look forward to hearing what's up, what's new, and the leaderboard name is Triple Nickel.
Oh, that's awesome.
So thank you.
Thank you very much for such a kind review.
Also, we have a Facebook page, facebook.com/theclipout. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and of course, you can sign up for our newsletter.
Yes.
At theclipout.com. And last but not least, all of these shows are recorded in video, and they live over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/theclipout. While you're there, be sure and subscribe to that as well, just so our YouTube numbers don't look so sad. So there's all that. Let's dig in, shall we?
We shall.
Breaking news.
So back again this week is John Mills from Run, Lift, and Live. Hey, John. Long time. No talk.
I know, right? Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. Happy
all of
Kwanzaa,
the things. All of
that.
the things.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I think for once my energy level can match yours, John.
Holy cow.
I am hyped. I am so hyped. I feel like I need more time off because like I feel so refreshed. I just keep talking about it.
I'm like,
Time off is awesome.
It is. I love it.
I'm like, man, if she's got that kind of energy, why are we wasting it on a podcast? It'd be the shortest episode ever. We might not even have an interview. So John's like, okay, this has got real weird.
I know.
I'll just step out.
Yeah, he's like,
I'm gonna start blushing.
So segueing into the news. Peloton announced this week, today, as of this recording, that they're extending the 30-day trial to a 60-day trial for their app.
Yeah. So I find that pretty interesting. Do you think, John, that this is like them going like head to head with Apple? Do you think this is them like, take the gloves off, here we go? Told you.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, the first thought I had was they announced this at the same time that they announced the new music, those new collaborations, those new mixes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so I thought, are they trying to entice people with the new music and then throw in this as kind of an additive to it to get them to jump in? Because when I read the article, they also say to sign up. I don't know if this is the standard. Maybe this is new. I'm not sure. But to sign up, you got to give your credit card. It'll just automatically roll into a purchase after the 60 days.
Of a bike? No.
Yeah, all of a sudden, you bought the bike in the tread and all of that.
Surprise.
But it automatically rolls, to a subscription.
Yeah.
A $13 subscription. So I don't know if that's new or not.
I don't know if it is either because like we've had it's just like you. We've had the equipment so long.
You started with the bike.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it's probably common. And I say that simply because anytime I sign up for anything that they want you to purchase at the end, you do a free trial. And then at the end of it, it rolls into the actual purchase. And then if you didn't want it, you needed to decline before it started.
Standardly, it's like that.
Yeah.
It was interesting that they pointed it out in the article, which made me go, I wonder if that was always like that.
I think it's just the article's take on it. And here's why.
Trying to pad their word count.
I do. I think that's exactly. I do. The thing is that also what came out today was five new commercials all about the app. And there were 5 of them. They're all 15 to 30 seconds. But the interesting thing is they're all focused on the app. There's one about meditation. There's a couple about outdoor running. There's one about weights. And there's even one that's like, you don't need the bike. So I think that's why I landed on we're going head to head with Apple. This is our throwdown. That's where I came up with that.
It's like all the other stuff is kind of surrounding. They want to just go head on with the app. So then the commercials, the music, that makes sense. And now we're doing 60 days aligns with Apple.
Right.
That adds up.
But see, I think what's interesting to me is that, obviously we've talked in the past about how focused on iOS the app has been. Mm-hmm. So I think that now puts them in a very odd position in that if they're trying to go head to head against Apple, and it seems to me the low hanging fruit for them would be
to make other operating systems work as well.
Right, would be to make Android so better, right? Because the Apple people, I don't know. So it just seemed the Apple Fitness is going to be bundled in with so much stuff. So many people are going to get it perceptually for free. They signed up for this other thing with Apple, whether it's Apple TV or
Apple News
or unlimited data or whatever, and they throw in Apple Fitness. And so the perception is going to be, well, I've already got Apple Fitness for free. So if you want to boost your numbers, it seems to me the obvious place would be go after Android users. And because they're not going to get it bundled in with things, and if they got to pay no matter what, then you need to make that your app in Android kick ass.
Well, I think actually, Tom, you might be onto something because I bet you Peloton has known Apple's do. We know that Apple has been planning this for a while. So maybe Peloton started making all these changes to the Android app now because they knew that was going to happen. They knew that they needed to get it up to parity for that exact reason. I think you bring up a good point, but I think that they've addressed it.
But is it? Is the Android app? Do you know? Is the Android? I know they've made some adjustments, but is it as good as the iOS app?
I think the only thing you can't do now, John, you have to correct me because now I don't have Android anymore. But I think it's the only thing different now is you can't preload classes, right? Everything else is the same.
I don't know what the limitations currently are. I haven't used the app that much recently, but I know historically there were limitations. I know over the last couple months. We've seen some new updates that were as if it was trying to come up to parity, but I don't know where it's at right now. But you have a point. Maybe they are attempting to get there. I would have thought, and someone mentioned this in my group, I would have thought they would have also lowered the price as well.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But it sounds like what they're thinking is we're delivering a better experience. We have more to offer within our app. And by the way, look, we're throwing in this music that's exclusive to us. So maybe they're thinking they're all even without putting the parity between the two devices, they're just at a different place. Maybe.
Well, two things. One, I think we'll have a conversation later about the Beatles, so that's a whole different thing. So I think you bring up a good point about that. But also, they do deliver a better experience because maybe you don't need to buy an entirely new television, OLED, but you do still have to buy a box, and it's not the same. And I know that Apple lovers, that's totally cool with them, but for somebody like me that I already have all these TVs that can do all of these things, you want me to buy another goddamn box? Are you kidding me? You want me to buy another thing? I shouldn't need to buy another thing. I'm all in at this point. I have the watch. I have the phone. What do you want from me?
You're not all in.
That's why, to me, I still feel like the Apple I don't know if they're head in on this. It's more like this is for the Apple enthusiast, the person who has bought into the whole ecosystem, and maybe we can get you to pay a little bit more. That's what it still feels like to me. I don't know if they're really going after that space.
I concur. And when people are like, "Oh, Peloton better watch out," my response, and I'll test both of you. Name a show that's on Apple TV.
Right.
I mean, clearly I can't.
Erica probably knows one.
Right. But there are so many different shows and different streaming platforms that have a ton of buzz, right? Hulu's got Handmaid's Tale, or right now, I guess The Teacher isn't. Theirs is on FX, but it's streaming on Hulu. But obviously Netflix has a ton. There's
And for anybody, I think you've brought this point up before, so I know we're going to get people saying there are good shows on Apple TV.
Saying there
we're
aren't
not
good
saying
shows.
there aren't. The point is that we can name all of them, and I have an Apple TV subscription, and I cannot name one television show.
We haven't even logged into it.
Because there's nothing that's like, I got to go watch it versus Netflix versus Hulu, and that's your point.
Yeah, and so they haven't hit that big buzz show yet. And so my point is that, for all the talk about they're going to take down Peloton, well, they couldn't take down Netflix or Hulu, and
they want to be, to your point, John, they want to be that go-to place for everybody. They want to have a little of everything so that a person who loves Apple can have a one-stop shop, and they don't need to go do all these other things. And I mean, there is value to that. There absolutely is.
Absolutely.
There's enough market share for both.
Whether or not Peloton is really going, we need to fight for this space. Are they really just going, we can't really advertise really hard on hardware right now? Let's push this.
You bring up a good point.
I think that's a really good point.
That's a solid point. Yeah.
And it also, I think, not only gives them something to talk about that isn't a piece of equipment, but it also, if they increase the perceived value of the app, then it doesn't seem as much of a letdown when you tell the people waiting for a bike, but you get the app for free until your bike shows up.
That's a very good point too.
Go take some walking classes or some breathing meditation. While you wait for your bike.
Right. Calm down.
Take a hike with our app.
Take a hike. Literally.
So it also came out last week that Peloton has acquired a company by the name of Precor, which
is crazy.
Almost sounds a little dirty, doesn't it?
No, Tom.
Little Precor?
No, Tom.
No? Okay.
It's not quite. It's almost. It's Precor.
Right. So, and Precor is kind of best known for they're really established in hotels and universities.
Right. So it's very different. I have so many questions about this acquisition. I mean, there's a lot we know. We know that they paid $420 million. We know that Peloton mostly did this, according to them, so that they have all of this in-house ability to go after commercial. They can increase their, warehousing, manufacturing, all of those things. But I have so many questions. What happens to all the stuff that's already on the floor of Precor? They already sell a rower. Does that mean that technically Peloton now sells rowers? And then you brought up the point, John, in one of your posts about the whole Mad Dog thing. Does that mean that now Peloton owns Spin? Or some part of it? I mean, what is happening?
To be honest, I was trying to just start a discussion with that. I can't figure out the tie there, but so I couldn't really defend the question when I asked it. But right, I mean, so we know that Precor worked some deal with Mad Dog Athletics so that they then produce these spin bikes and can put the term spinning and spinner on those bikes.
Right.
But I don't know if that really means that they own the rights. It was kind of like some type of deal between those two companies in that relationship.
They probably have it in that context.
But it makes you ask the question, is there, right? I don't know.
And also, what happens to all the people that work for Precor? They're building all this stuff for the home market. So, are they going to just start putting Peloton screens on their already existing stuff? Or are they going to okay, you guys that worked for Precor all focus on commercial now. Everybody else all work on the home fitness. I mean, it's just like my brain just goes crazy with the logistics of this.
I struggle to even focus on the home piece, and maybe you guys can help me with this. So I go to their site, and you can go into the commercial stuff, you can go into the home fitness stuff. And when I look at the home stuff, do people even buy that? It's not even like they're really trying to push people there. It doesn't look very fancy. It kind of looks thrown together. I don't get the home piece.
It's more like we have all these bikes we've made.
Commercial. They say a home things there, but they're more commercial.
It's almost like they've made all these bikes for hotels, and if somebody's like, "Oh, well, I'd like one for my house," like, "Okay, we'll sell you one." But it's not.
I wasn't sure because I know people have Precor ellipticals and things like that for their home, but I wasn't sure where that like cutoff is. Is it like that on their website now because this acquisition occurred, or was it always like that? I don't know the answer to that, but and that's
I don't either. So my mind could only really focus on the commercial piece. I didn't quite, and I've seen other companies like that with they're big commercial vendors, and then you go to their site and there's like this little tunnel to some home purchase. Like it doesn't seem like that's really what they do. Well, that's what it felt like with Precor.
Yeah, because there's probably people that like travel a lot.
Yeah,
that they're always staying at a Marriott, and they're like, I really dig this elliptical. Who makes this? And then okay, yeah, I'll buy. So I mean, I could see a situation like that, but yeah, I think it seems like their focal point though is selling them in quantity to hotels.
So, but what does that mean? Does that mean Peloton's going to now sell ellipticals? I don't understand because I mean John Foley is on the record as saying no to ellipticals. So like,
he is not an elliptical fan.
Yeah. So like, what does that mean?
They said that they're going to work these things, of course, in the interim until they can fully complete the sell and then merge these two things together. Like, yeah, it makes you wonder what's going to happen with that business. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Precor was worth 2-3 years ago. I think Amer Fitness owns them. I can't remember the parent company.
No clue.
But I read information about how they were thriving, and then they wanted to sell that business. And I'm assuming that even prior to COVID, it seemed like they were losing revenue. And of course, with COVID, it kind of tanked. So it makes me wonder, like, did Peloton just purchase, this large corporation for pennies? The same cost it would have cost them to build out these facilities, plus all this R&D and people. And
you have a great point.
They need to keep all that other business, right? Like based on what they spent,
right?
So
that's what it makes me wonder. That's why I'm not quite sure how this is going to all play out. I'm anxious to see how it all kind of sells.
Well, it seems to me though that if their goal is to get into the hotel space, it makes sense because if you think about it, ever since like 10 years ago, anytime you walk into a hotel room, every clock radio, you can plug your iPhone right into it.
Yep.
And and because they had reached that level, if they can basically flip all the bikes in hotel gyms to Pelotons,
can you even imagine?
I mean, that's a huge win for them.
Yeah. Right. And also for all of us who travel.
Right.
That's amazing. So, we would be able to work out anywhere.
I guess in the short term, those bikes that have a user interface, it'll just be you can log into Peloton on those bikes. But as those bikes die off and they sell those hotels new bikes because they already have a relationship with them, then they can come back and say, hey, for the price of a Precor replacement, we can give you a Peloton replacement. And then that's something you can image in your ad materials of your gym stocked with Pelotons, and it makes them a lot stickier.
I saw it also somewhat like the Lululemon acquisition of Mirror. Like so Lulu acquires Mirror, and they're very clear that in doing so, they're thinking they could push their athletic wear as part of that device. It's like it's another input in people's homes where they're doing fitness, and they could sell more fitness wear because their instructors will be wearing it. And so I saw this similarly, right? Because now Peloton has purchased this company, and their products are in all these spaces already, and they could use that also as an advertising channel, whether it be for their bikes, their treadmills, or their fitness gear, right from these hotels and these gyms. So I'm really interested to see how this in the short term, right? Like they could just put the app on there, but they could also be pushing products on those.
Yeah. So to that point, the next post that you have here, Tom, is this is actually, John, you posted this in your group. This is a demo of the Precor Preva platform. And it's on their commercial equipment. And so I thought you brought up some really good points here, because if you look at this, and we don't even have to have the sound on, you can see in the images and when you're watching this video that like literally you sign in to all of these different things right on the screen. And I know some of you are listening, but what it does is it pulls up the these different tiles. There's one for like Netflix, and there's one for, I don't know, Spotify and things like that. And so I think what we're kind of all saying here is this new software could easily pull up the Peloton app, but also, to your point, John, maybe it'll pull up a thing that's like, go to the Peloton store. You like that top that Robin was wearing during that workout? Go click on it. Go buy it.
Right. And the Preva platform was built so that gyms could set it up to customize it so that there's an entry screen. They can put their own logo and their own disclaimers and messages. But also there's an advertising pop-up banner at the bottom of the screen for selling product for that purpose. And so, I mean, so when I saw that, that hit me right off the bat. I was like, are they going to be selling Peloton boutique gear, right?
And maybe makeup, because we know there's some kind of cosmetics thing happening. So
right. And along with, go ahead.
And we keep talking about hotels, but let's not forget they're also in universities.
Oh yeah.
And so here's the advantage of a university is that you're getting people used to your brand at a very young age, right?
An impressionable age.
An impressionable age. There's a reason when a college freshman starts, they're giving, Gillette's giving everybody free razors because they want you to buy the refill Gillettes, and they know that once you make that choice, you stick with it for decades at a time. And I know I still use Gillette to this day because somebody handed me a free Gillette razor when I was a freshman in college. And so if they can get those college kids baked into the Peloton ecosystem early, they're going to stay there. Also, those college kids, statistically speaking, are more likely to make more money and then turn around and buy other. So, I mean, it's really smart in that regard. And we should probably address one aspect that you and I discovered.
Well, and I didn't know if we wanted to do that here.
I think we should.
Okay.
I think we should. We'll talk about it in an upcoming episode. But we were talking to
Kristen Fleshner, who's we've had her on the show in the past. She's blind and she's a disability activist, and she has had conversations with Peloton about their accessibility issues. And because Precor is available in universities, they have to be like fully compliant from an accessibility standpoint. So when we don't even know if Peloton realizes this yet, but they basically in the mixed of all this acquired all the basic coding for making your various pieces of equipment accessible to people with differing abilities. And if they're going to put it in hotels and universities, they're also required to go by the rules because universities have to be they have to be compliant for people to be able to use it. So like they enter a different kind of like level of needing to be compliant in those things. So we thought that was super interesting.
I think that's very interesting as well. On top of that, in acquiring this, we know that Preva platform, you can sign up for it I don't know that there's a cost to it, but you can create a subscription so that and then you can set up defaults so that the tiles that you want to see in whatever order you want to see them, what softwares you usually start when you're working out. And I don't know what else they track. They may track metrics of how much you work. I just don't know how much they track. But so if you go to another hotel or another gym and use another Precor product, you could use a card or log in and all your preferences come up, all your information before you start working out.
That's
so my
powerful.
mind starts thinking, are all those people going to flip to digital subscribers? Like, is there a way to flip? Who are these people, and do they flip, right? Or how do they flip them?
Right.
Like, I got all kinds of questions on that.
Yeah,
these are
good
great
questions.
questions.
Yeah.
And maybe it just makes it more accessible to a college student. Maybe that's what that does.
Yeah.
It kind of takes that whole, like how they gave those digital memberships to all those HBCUs.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really interesting.
It casts that net even wider.
It does.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's all coming together.
It is. And then real quick before we let you go, talk about Goldman Sachs is investing in Echelon.
Talk to us about this because Echelon. That's my favorite topic.
I mean, I don't understand. I'm not hating. I know I'm a hater. I'm going to just admit it. I'm a hater. I hate on a lot of products sometimes. I'm sorry. I'm not hating here. I don't understand because I know. So Goldman Sachs led the funding round to make $650 million, as a part of this round. So I don't know what they're going to do with it. I'm assuming they're going to, expand their products. They already.
Well, it depends on what Peloton does. They got a copy on that. So Peloton's got to do something first, John. Silly. Silly,
John. Well, I don't know what they're going to do with that. But I guess where I'm saying I'm like hating. Maybe it's not hate. I don't know if it's hate or not. Is in the article they say that Echelon has 100,000 users and made $100 million in their fiscal 2020. And that's throwing me because 100,000 users, I'm assuming they mean members, not subscriptions.
I would agree.
So like in my household, to one subscription, it's me.
Right.
But I got 3 members, right? It's me, Erica, and Jasmine.
Right.
So if they've got 100,000 members, then that means they've got 50 or 1,000 or less subscriptions compared to Peloton's nearly 2 million. Like this seems so tiny. I got to imagine Nordic Track and Bowflex from Nautilus, probably even Minx. I think they all have more than 50,000 subscribers. So to me, that is not the money that they made in this funding round. The size of their membership to me is shocking. That's stunning to me.
Maybe it explains why they have such a low number of
like Instagram social media followers
and things because they don't have that many subscribers.
Yeah, that would align to that. But and I don't know. Maybe it's easy to get people to invest $65 million at your company.
No, I get what you're saying.
Small
Why?
amount? I'm struggling. Like, what are we doing? What's the intent? Like, I'm completely lost with this whole thing.
I think it's just a hot space to be in, and this was low-hanging fruit.
That's what I think too.
I really do.
They were like, "Oh, well, we need to be in one of these." Like
Right.
these things are all the same, because investors just kind of treat all of this as the same. They think that like if you look at Wall Street, they think Echelon equals Peloton.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
no, guys.
Didn't Goldman Sachs almost like go bankrupt a decade ago?
I don't even know.
Yeah, they're big, huge suit against them.
Yeah, so I mean, like, let's not, just because they got a big fancy name that everybody knows, let's not assume that they know what they're talking about either.
Maybe they don't always make good decisions.
Right.
So I'm on 2 sides of this whole thing. So on the one side, I'm going, what? I don't quite get the funding round. What's going on based on those numbers?
Yeah.
But on the other side of it, I know Icon's talking about going public. They say they're going public in 2021. When they go public, what's that going to mean? What's the competition level going to look like as soon as they do? Is Viatech and Echelon looking to try to like follow Peloton in the public space along with Icon? Are they trying to come along that road?
It would not surprise me. Like, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a good long-term strategy, but I think for certain people at high levels, there's probably a quick cash grab there, and it would not surprise me at all.
It wouldn't surprise me either, because again, Echelon does whatever Peloton does.
Yeah.
Peloton went public. So, I mean, I'm just saying that, like, I'm not even being sarcastic. Like, I'm being dead serious when I say it would not shock me if that's their plan, because Peloton did it.
Agreed. So, well, I guess thank you so much for joining us again. Welcome back. And
yes.
Before we let you go, remind everybody where they can find you.
They can find me on Facebook in my Run, Lift, and Live group or page. They can find me on Instagram, Run, Lift, and Live, or at runliftandlive.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and give our love to everybody in your home.
Oh, same from us. Always great seeing you guys.
You too.
Bye.
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 So it came to our attention last week that Peloton has launched their Insights Lab.
That they have.
And what can we make of this?
So basically, overall, it's marketing research.
Okay.
But I think it's interesting how they went about it because you had to be invited. If you get the link from somebody else, you can't.
It won't work.
It won't work.
Yeah.
It's also interesting some of the things that they ask because first you have to qualify.
Right.
So after you get the link, after you're asked to invite, you still have to qualify. So they want to know what equipment you have in your home. Do you live with other people? What's your annual income? Where do you live? What kind of employment do you do?
Right.
And they want to know if anybody in your family works in certain industries. I mean, most of that is standard.
Those are pretty standard survey questions because they don't want to ask a marketing guy questions in the marketing survey.
Right.
Because we kind of know how it works. And so we'll skew their results.
Totally get that. But it's interesting because they made a community. Why do I think that's interesting? Because you go in and you fill out these surveys, but you can also introduce yourself. Now, if you're in this, I don't want anyone to worry. There's nothing in there that can identify you.
Right.
Like any of those questions that I just talked about, there's nothing in there that's going to say what your household income is or who you live with. So you don't have to worry about any of that from a safety perspective. But I just find it interesting that like they want to have this community where people can discuss things. Now, I also find this interesting because it's specific to the tread. So a few months ago, there was this new thing that came out that's like, you can be part of all these different marketing things that we're doing. Like we want to check stuff. This is different than that. This is totally different. This is specific to the tread. And I can't help but wonder, is this specific to the tread because they want to make improvements to the Tread Plus? Is this specific to the Tread because they've never actually marketed the Tread? And that's per Peloton during one of their recent investor calls. Or is this because they want to figure out the best way to market the new Tread that's coming out that just is out there on the market now in the UK and will soon be over here? What is their rationale behind this? Why are they doing, and why the timing of now? I feel like it has to do with this launch, but I'm not exactly sure what. I
feel like it's COVID related.
Why?
So they're creating this community, right?
Yeah.
So typically the way these marketing research things work is they put you in a room and like they're going to show you a commercial. I did one years ago for Jiffy Lube, and it was like, and they got really mad at me because they were like...
Because you were a marketing guy?
No, because I wasn't officially marketing guy yet, but I still had a love for it. But they got really mad at me because I was like, I can't tell any of the oil change places apart. You're all the same to me. And they're like, what? And I'm like, all of your logos are square and they're red or red and blue.
And all true statements.
And so I'm like... So whether it's Jiffy Lube, Valvoline, whatever, I'm like, it's all the same oil change place. Like, I cannot tell you apart. Mm-hmm. And they were very mad at me for saying that. But I'm like, well, you brought me in. But anyway, they put you in a conference room. They put 10, 15 people around a table in a conference room. They can't do that anymore. And I wonder if this is an attempt to replicate that.
So where conversations can still occur.
Yeah, and that in the past, we would have never necessarily seen this starting because they could have reached out to people on a more one-to-one basis and put them in a conference room, and they can't do that.
All interesting theories.
Just a theory.
Interesting.
And then while we're talking about the Peloton Tread, there is a new Peloton Tread commercial.
Yeah. So while this has been going on, while you're playing this commercial, I will point out that like December 26th, it went live in the UK for purchase, and it will soon be able to be purchased in the US. There's 8 states that it will be able to be purchased in February.
Okay.
And then in March, it will be nationwide, including for the first time ever, Alaska.
How about that?
So that's very exciting.
The Alaskans have to be very excited about that.
They are. And people are already asking, like, I want to go purchase it now, and you can't buy a buy button. The only buy button out there is for the UK. You can, and that didn't go live until December 26th. So
Gotcha. I
don't know if the plan is they're not going to have a button to press buy until those states go live. I don't know. We'll have to kind of keep an eye on that. But, I'm really excited to see the Tread come out on the market and see how people respond to it, because the Tread Plus is just a beautiful machine. I love running on it. I thought the Tread itself was a great machine, but there's just a lot of questions I have, like, Is this going to be better received, less issues? There's been some quality issues with the Tread Plus.
Right.
No secret for anybody. And also, I'm interested to see how the classes are going to work when you have the free mode that works on the Tread Plus, but it doesn't work on the Tread.
Yeah.
How are they going to account for the different inclines? All things I've brought up before, but I'm just interested to see how it goes. Also, I still don't understand why the UK got it first. I don't have a problem with it. I just don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, logistics wise, why did that happen? I feel like that means something about manufacturing facilities in the background.
Gotcha.
And I would love to know exactly what it means. Just the way my brain works.
Getting the psychological edge with Dr. Jenn.
So joining us today, back again, Dr. Jenn Mann, licensed marriage, family, and child therapist and sports psychology consultant. You may know her from VH1's Couple Therapy with Dr. Jenn, or VH1's Family Therapy with Dr. Jenn, or her long-run radio show, The Dr. Jenn Show. She's written 4 best-selling books, including The Relationship Fix, Dr. Jenn's 6-Step Guide to Improving Communication, Connection, and Intimacy, and she has her own fancy app called No More Diets. Dr. Jenn, hey, how's it going?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me on.
So this week's question, once again, is from a listener, and she asked, how do you handle parental guilt when you're getting in a workout every day, but you feel that you're missing time with your kids, especially when they continue to ask throughout your workout like needy little punks? I added the needy little punks.
Yes, you did add
She did
that.
not put
You
that in
did.
there. I'm speaking for her. I'll say it so she doesn't have
But like
to.
when they're asking for you the
Yeah.
entire time you're working out. And this one really stuck out to me because my daughter is old enough to not do that now. She's 14 and now she wants nothing to do with me. But
yeah, we'll see her again when she's like 19 is our theory.
But I remember when she was like 4 and 5, especially, it was just constantly like, hey, mom. Actually, it was mommy. And you're just like, because you can't do anything. You can't do anything without them interrupting you. So I remember feeling constantly guilty. I have no words for this mom because I feel it.
Because you're right there.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
You're awaiting the
totally,
answer as well.
Yes.
As you know, I am a mother of twins. I'm grateful that they're 14 now and they can do their own thing. But I do remember those days as well. And there are a few things. One is create the boundary in advance. Mommy's going to be on the bike from this time to this time. During that time, I always say to my kids, my Peloton, it's not therapy, but it's therapeutic. And in this pandemic, you may hear me cry on the bike. You may hear me laugh on the bike. I'm okay unless the house is burning down, unless someone has fallen down and they can't get up. Don't interrupt the Peloton therapy. So granted, they're older, but I do think that early on, you kind of want to, quote unquote, train your kids to respect the Peloton.
Yeah.
to understand that this is mom or dad's time to themselves and that this is really important time. And it's a nice role model for your kid that shows them healthy time is good for me. I enjoy this. This is important for my well-being. When you're a grown-up, you'll probably do something like this too, which sets a great example for them. If your kids are younger and you don't have someone who is watching them, a partner or someone who lives in your home, a parent or whoever, then what I recommend doing is save some toys or coloring books or things for your kid that you only bring out. We want the novelty effect that you only bring out when you're on that Peloton. And I would stock up, from the dollar store, stock up from, the Amazon, Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales, the New Year's, anytime there's a sale, stock up on things that you think your kid will like, and you keep that stuff in a separate box that they don't see. So when you get on your bike and you do your 30 minutes or whatever it is, your hour, you can say okay, I got something fun and exciting. Here's a new toy, because that will keep them way more occupied than the same old Legos they've been playing with for the last 5 years.
I love that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to get on the Peloton. You can watch an R-rated movie.
Well, that's actually the next thing. I would go for the R-rated, but if your child is old enough for screen time, and as any of you know who have read my book, Super Baby 12 Ways to Give Your Child a Head Start in the First 3 Years, I recommend not giving kids screen time until they're at least 3. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends 2, but they're saying that between 2 and 3 is a gray area in terms of brain development. So I waited, like my girls didn't watch TV till they were 3.5. Okay. So I always recommend better on the latter side, but that first 3+ years, depending on how long you wait, it's your opportunity to train them to entertain themselves.
Okay.
And what I found with my kids is that I was fortunate that early on I had read the literature and the research and made a choice not to do that. So my kids were able to sit with the board book in their crib for an hour, hour and a half on their own.
Wow.
They were able to play with their toys on their own because they had to. They didn't have, once you give them the screen time, it really does make them less able to focus and concentrate. It's kind of like when you eat food with like tons of sugar and MSG and like all kinds of chemicals and stuff. It's like, oh my God, that's so exciting. And then you have some steamed broccoli. It's like, whoa, this is boring. Like, this is terrible. But if you grow up on steamed broccoli and then you have something else, it's like, oh, that's good. And then you go back to what you do. So if the baseline is I can entertain myself as a kid, then you're ahead of the game.
Okay.
But do not disturb, novelty toys, saving up screen time for when the parent is doing the Peloton, and also, being able to have someone else in the house who's aware of how sacred that time is, who will support you in what you're doing and entertain the kids.
That's priceless.
Yes.
That's priceless.
Those are great ideas.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you.
And I do think one other thing I just want to add is that we, as women in particular, I've yet to encounter a man in 30 years of being a therapist who has said this. But as women, we tend to have a lot of mommy guilt. I've never met a guy who said, like, I feel really guilty for working out. I feel really guilty for going into the office. Like, I'm missing this time with my kid. But I hear it from women all day long. And I think that there is a lot to be said for us working on letting go of that mommy guilt and saying, like, I'm being a good role model for my kid. And I've got to, even though it's become a cliche, but it's like, you got to put the air mask on yourself on the plane before you put on your kid, because otherwise you could faint and because you didn't get enough air and your kid can't get the mask on.
Right.
So it's
Absolutely.
like we need to feed ourselves and give ourselves the oxygen before we can give it to others.
Totally agree.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all that. Until next week, where can people find you?
On social media, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, at Dr. Jenn Man, 2 N's on Jen, 2 N's on Man.
Awesome.
Something people struggle with a lot with their Pelotons or like fitness equipment in general.
Any fitness equipment, yeah.
Is what do you clean it with?
Absolutely.
Because you get it pretty gross.
This is something I see people ask all the time.
If you're using it properly, it gets gross.
Absolutely. And some people sweatier than others. But the thing is, like, what do you clean it with? Because you want your electronic equipment and your fitness equipment to last a long time,
right.
Especially when you're paying the kind of money you are for a Peloton. Like, you want that to last. And so it's always like, I see it all the time.
Yeah.
What do I use?
Especially in the age of connected fitness, it used to be like it was just stainless steel and vinyl.
Now there's like special coatings. There's plastic pieces that like protect from the sweat.
There's screens. There's Wi-Fi's. There's dongles.
What do we do? Well, I believe I was ignoring your dongles.
Okay. Happens when you've been married for a while.
I believe we have a solution.
We do.
And it is called Logan Active Clean. So we've been talking to Logan Active Clean for a while now, and they have been talking to us about launching their new products. They wanted us to try them out. And I was skeptical because when you use cleaning products, there's almost always a residue left behind of some kind. Guys, this cleaner doesn't leave any residue behind. I tried it on every surface I could think of. I tried it right on my Peloton tablet. I tried it on the tread. I tried it on the bike. I even tried it on the tonal. I tried it on my yoga mat. I tried it on my steps that I step up on. I tried it on the bench for the tonal. No residue left on any of those surfaces.
It's completely organic. It's alcohol free. It's cruelty free.
Yes,
that's important to you,
which it is.
And if it's not important to you, they have a version that has cruelty. No, it does not. But it's got and it's you don't have to worry about what you spray it on. You can spray everything down and wipe it, and you're done. And here's a little thing I pointed out to them that they hadn't even thought about. You can use it to clean your car.
Yeah.
Like, because you got a screen in your car.
That's right.
And you're like, but you want to wipe down the dashboard and you're worried about that. Well, you can take it out to your car.
Yeah. And, one of the things I want to point out is it even works on the tread slats, the tread plus slats, because they're kind of sticky. So it's like, what do you use on that?
Right.
It even works on that. Like, I haven't found anything it doesn't work on. And it smells good.
Yeah.
So if you guys are interested in trying this out yourself, because you listen to the clip out, get 10% off of your order. Use the code CLIPOUT10.
And if you spend $59 or more, you will get free shipping in the contiguous United States.
Yes. Also, if you just want to check it out, you want to see what else is out there, you can find it at loganactiveclean.com. If you want to follow them on Facebook, it's Logan Active Clean, and on Instagram at Logan Active Clean.
Peloton in the news.
Interesting story from Barrett Sports Media.
I thought it was very interesting. Yes. So ESPN has one of their positions is an NBA countdown producer. I had no idea that was a thing until I read this article. So
I think that's one of their shows, NBA Countdown.
Oh.
So she's a producer for one of their shows. They're not.
She's not like on every NBA game.
No, counting down. No.
Oh, it's just not like a producer for that? Oh,
no.
my God.
We don't watch a lot of sports here.
That just happened.
Normally, that's the kind of thing you see me do.
Well, I have my moments. So anyway.
Must be contagious.
There is a show called NBA Countdown, and they have a producer. And apparently, she is potentially leaving and moving to Peloton, which is the whole reason we're talking about this. Her name is Amina Hussein, and it's just a rumor. Nobody over at the ESPN network would give any kind of comment.
Nor at Peloton.
Which probably means it's true. Because if it wasn't true, they would just be like, no, it's not true.
Like call Peloton and say, we've heard you're hiring Tom from the clip out, and they're going to go, no.
Right.
They're not going to be, we don't have a comment
no
at this
comment.
time. They're like, no.
So this is interesting because ESPN has been losing a lot of people just in general with everything happening this year. It's just been kind of a crazy year. But I find it interesting that Peloton is in the news for potentially
poaching ESPN talent.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
It's pretty fascinating. I mean, they've had hires from big companies before, obviously Instagram, Disney, but they just keep hiring from these big companies, and it says a lot that the people that have what I think a lot of people would consider to be dream jobs are willing to leave a job like that for Peloton.
Absolutely.
I will also say ESPN is notorious for paying like shit.
Is it?
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. At least they used to be. Yeah. I don't know if it's, but I know they used to be notorious for like, you would go there, build your resume, and get the hell out of Dodge.
Well, when you're known for being a good company, like a big company, that's easy to get away with.
Totally. And then people wrote about Robin Arzon and some of the criticism she's been getting for daring to exercise while pregnant.
Yeah, apparently she has been getting a lot of comments. I mean, shocking. On the internet, people have opinions.
Who knew?
But people have just been telling her, like, Robin, you need to calm down. You need to not work out so hard. And she's like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and worry about my body, and you worry about your own. And but she said it in, Robin style. But really, if you're a person who's concerned that she's working out too hard, I don't think that any of us should compare ourselves to Robin, because what doctors will tell you is that you should work out. You can work out when you're pregnant to the level you were before. So for example, if you were running before you got pregnant and it's comfortable for you to run, by all means continue to do so.
Right.
That is probably, however, not the time to start a marathon training program.
Right. Yeah.
Like, so you kind of have to take it into consideration. She's used to vigorous workouts hours long a day. So continuing to do that while she is pregnant is not unusual.
Here's another thing to take into consideration.
What's that?
She's a fitness professional and she probably, just with a capital P, probably knows more about it than you do.
Well, it's her body, so she knows more about it than any of us.
But I will say, like, it might be my body, but there's a lot I don't know about it.
Okay, I get that.
She's a fitness professional. This is her job. She's been trained and certified, and she knows things, and she knows more than the neckbeards on the internet.
Absolutely. And let me just be clear. I fully support Robin in this. I will also say, just because you're a fitness instructor does not mean that you understand how your body will respond in a pregnancy. And so people who are doing this for the first time, being pregnant for the first time while working out, need to talk to their doctor. I assure you, Robin has talked to her doctor.
Sure, no doubt.
Yeah. So, like, the bottom line is, let her live her life. Yeah. It's none of our business.
Right.
Yet here we are talking about it.
We're talking about how people shouldn't talk about it.
That's
so
right.
I think we're grandfathered in.
That's different.
That's our loophole.
That's right.
Yeah. A quick follow-up on the Monica Ruiz story from last week.
Yeah.
She was our guest. She was great. She's the Peloton wife.
Yes.
If you're unfamiliar.
Yes, and she mentioned to us that she was going to be taking her 200th ride the weekend that her episode aired.
Right.
And then she broke her toe, and then she wasn't sure she was going to be able to ride. So she had to make some adjustments last minute, and she was able to still ride. She was able to ride with Jenn Sherman, who gave Monica her first shout out ever in her Peloton career. And in pure Jenn Sherman style, she gave an excellent shout out. And I have to give a special thanks to Jenn's men for making that happen, because I made a message. I would like to say a phone call, but it was really just a message.
Right.
And then that was then sent through the Jenn's men brigade through Fred and then Howie, and that got to Jenn Sherman. And she was like, hey, you remember that commercial? Yeah. She's on here right now, and she did 200 rides, and it was an epic shout out, like just epic, because Jenn gives epic shout outs. So congratulations to Monica. It was also her birthday, so it was just kind of a big weekend in general.
That was,
It was very cool, and I was glad I was on to be able to see it.
And I'm glad you taped it so I could see it.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have been on to see it.
No, we know.
Peloton took one step closer to a monkey's ride this week. I think they're just slowly trying to figure out ways to get me on the bike. It still didn't work, but this is pretty close.
Yeah, this was a great collaboration. The collaboration we are speaking of is, of course, the Beatles collaboration. Not one cycle ride, but two. There was a 30-minute version with Leanne and a 45-minute version with Dennis, as well as a 45-minute run with Bex. Plus, there was yoga. There was a 60-minute yoga class. So I haven't gotten to take the bike rides yet, but I did take the run, and I took the yoga class. Enjoyed the heck out of it. It's just great to listen to music you love. It just is. And you know, circling back to our conversation earlier with John Mills talking about how this is so interesting with Apple, because there's kind of an Apple battle with Beatles, and I did not know this. So can you quickly tell that story?
Sure. So the backstory here is that the Beatles and Apple have gotten into it numerous times over the years, and because the Beatles, in case you're unaware, started their own record label in the late 60s, and it was called Apple. When Steve Jobs started his computer company, he's a huge Beatles fan. He called his company, and an homage to them, Apple. And
Didn't know that until we talked.
Yeah, and so then when the company took off, that they the Beatles were like, whoa, what's this about? And they sued them over copyright infringement for using their name, or using the name of the record label. And Apple lost that suit, had to pay him a pretty sizable sum of money. And one of the deal points of that settlement, you're talking like the mid 80s ish,
long time ago,
was Apple had to promise to never go into the music industry. Of course, in 1985 or whenever this was,
nobody could even think about what was to come.
Well, yeah, like what's a computer? Well, what do we care about music? And so they agreed to that. So when they launched iTunes, like this was part of the reason the Beatles were one of the last artists to make it to iTunes because they were mad, and so they went back again head to head over Apple and music, and they had to pay them again. So. It's interesting, and I think especially in the wake of Apple Fitness launching, for them to turn around and do a Beatles thing, because I don't know that the Beatles would do something like this with Apple because there has been bad blood there, but money can change a lot of opinions.
That it can. Well, I thought the whole thing was fascinating. Plus, everybody went kind of nuts when they saw the original advertisement, and there were all kinds of people thinking it was a rower.
Yeah.
So I think everybody just needs to kind of wrap their head around when Peloton says something big is coming. Just assume it's a music collaboration until we hear otherwise.
Good rule of thumb.
Okay. Speaking of music collaborations.
Yes.
Peloton released new classes for New Year's Eve, this New Year's week, that are counting down the top 50 songs of 2020. And they broke it down into 30-minute classes, so there's 5 of them. And on New Year's Eve, they're going to be doing all of them back-to-back encores.
Oh, wow.
Which I think is great. Also, if you didn't see it over on the tour, you can actually go over and take it as a group all together. They're doing them all back to back together as one of their tours. So check that out.
That sounds exhausting.
It sounds fun, but and if you're watching our YouTube channel right now, you can see that this was all the instructors talking about the top 50 countdown. It's a pretty cool little video if you have not seen it. It's all of the songs that you as riders ranked the highest.
And then while we're talking music, obviously they announced their Elvis collaboration last week or 2 weeks ago.
They did.
But they made a new announcement in relation to that.
And I love it. I love this. I love this more than the Elvis collection, which I wasn't super excited about.
It's not your jam.
It's not my jam, but whatever. This is cool. It is all Elvis remixes.
Okay.
It's all these different artists that have mixed it, like Big Boy and Chromeo. It's their songs that have been remixed with Elvis versions, and they made it into a whole new type of class. How amazing is that? So unique. I love how they took like Elvis classic and then they mixed it up for like people who, because
for the kids today.
Honestly, yeah, that's great. And I also want to point out that at the beginning of December, Peloton said, we're going to have a lot of gifts for you. And people thought they were going to be like physical gifts.
Right.
But they weren't. They were musical gifts. And there was a lot.
Those are huge acts that they've been partnering up with in December.
And to your point, you got to wonder if this becomes a new holiday tradition every year.
Yeah, it could very well be.
Because they're not doing live classes. So will they drop some amazing collaboration every year? Although I don't know how you can top Beyonce and the Beatles
and Elvis.
And Elvis. Like I feel like
there's still a lot. Rolling Stones.
Okay. The Monkees.
The Monkees, of course. Of course.
Of course.
It doesn't even need to be said. And then finally, Peloton had an end-of-year sale that started on the 26th, which is all but depleted by now, I'm sure.
It was,
depleted within minutes.
It was. It was. Like, it went up. The email came out, and it was gone so quickly. I'm glad they did it. I'm sure it's like a bunch of return stock. Our buddy, Bob Tremore, he did a little analysis, and he found that, like, they were adding SKUs by the dozens, meaning that, when we have a brand new drop, it's got 1,000. This was just like a few.
Right.
So clearly these were returns and they wanted to get rid of them, which good.
Sure.
And if you were lucky enough to get one, great.
Yeah.
But most of the stuff it was gone instantly. It went so fast.
Even by Peloton boutique standards.
Yeah. Because there were so few. But cool. Glad they did it and glad some people were able to benefit from it.
Yeah.
I bought everything full price, so
I had no doubt.
I know.
Checking in with the Peloton community.
So joining us today via the magic of Zoom Tube is Stephen Nalbach. Hey, Stephen, how's it going?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us.
And thanks for your patience while I finished eating.
Well, little behind the scenes.
Yes. The camera popped up and I'm sitting over here chewing. I'm like, hi.
I know you brought down the snack, and I'm like, really? You've been home for an hour. You could have eaten at any point.
But I had to nap. I can't nap now. I can eat now.
So anyway, Stephen, how did you originally find Peloton?
Actually, one of the partners that I work with, I talked about trying to get back into shape, and he's like, you got to get on the Peloton. You got to get on the Peloton. And kind of blew him off. But then my wife, she had been exercising and wanted it, for a Christmas gift. So we got it back in 2016.
Oh, so you've had it for a while.
Been a bit, yeah.
It only took me 4 years to get 100 rides, though.
Okay, so she's had the bike. She's been riding the bike.
Yeah, she's on 1,500 rides.
So let's see, when did you officially start riding? When did you begin your journey to 100?
Yeah. I mean, I'd been on and off. I started riding back in 2017, but couldn't stick with it. But basically during the pandemic, and starting in June 1st is when this whole thing started with, trying to get a healthy lifestyle and get back to where I was.
Okay. So I know that whenever you were posting your pictures on the OPP, it kind of indicated there was quite a weight loss journey, and through your time that you have become a surgeon, a neurosurgeon. So when was exercise always part of your journey, or was it you had to kind of put everything on hold as you became a surgeon? I don't really.
Right. Yeah. It was exercise, and healthy was up there, and until I got accepted into neurosurgery, and then it went all downhill.
I'm guessing
takes up some of your time. Yeah.
One would think.
I mean, they always show on TV, which is what I know of how, whenever you have to do your residency and stuff, that it takes a lot.
And we all know that TV is never wrong.
Exactly. That's why I'm asking. So, but it they show these ridiculous, when you become a medical doctor in general, but also when you're just doing residency, that there's all these hours that you have to put in. Is that accurate? Is that hard to manage?
Oh yeah. This is, when I was doing it, it was before they really enforced the 80-hour work week. So, it was typically over 100 hours a week.
Ooh, wow.
Man, that's a lot. So I'm just curious, neurosurgery, I mean, that's pretty fancy. So how does that work? Were you 10 years old and you were like, neurosurgery, and
I would like to cut on people's brains.
You just gotta buckle down and start right then, or is it something you could be go down the medical field and then be I understand you oh, I want to be a doctor, and then you get involved and you're like, maybe I'll focus on hearts, or maybe I'll focus on being a pediatrician, but right. This seems so complex, so hyper complex that it is that something that you can come to later in your career, or do you kind of got to hit the ground with that as a focus?
That's a great question. And normally what you're saying is right. And everyone that, I trained with was that they kind of knew they were going to do that from the beginning. When I got into med school, I thought I was going to be a pediatrician, and apparently that's the most common thing. And I soon learned you treat the parents, not the kids. So that was the end of that.
Yeah. I mean, my day job is concert promotion, and sometimes we'll do a Disney on Ice or something. They're the worst. They are the worst shows. Because if something goes wrong with a concert, somebody gets mad and you here's a free beer, and you'll shut them up. But if something goes wrong with a kids show, oh man.
Now you got to make the parents happy.
You ruin someone's childhood. And they will not let you live it down. It's brutal.
Well, and then the first 2 years are just, hitting the books hard and a little bit of patient interaction. But in that third year, you have to pick basically, are you going to go into the medical side or the surgical side? And the medicine just seems like rounding and pontificating, whereas surgery is hands-on. And, that's what I wanted to do. And I trained in Philadelphia in a rough area, and they had an amazing trauma program. I thought I was going to be a trauma surgeon, and I said, well, I had the good scores that I could have cardiac or neuro as an option, and I'll do those rotations last just in case. And, on my first day, I got to take out an AVM from the brain with a surgeon. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to do from now on.
That's day one?
Wait. What's an ABM?
I don't know what an ABM is.
So it's a abnormal collection of blood vessels that, if it ruptures and bleeds, could be fatal. And, I was just assisting. I didn't do much of it, but they just throw you right in. And
I was like, God forbid anyone ever needs to do anything to my brain, but I'm hoping I at least get a guy that's like,
not day one.
Built up a little PTO first. Is that too much to ask?
No. That's why the training programs have all the big names and they're famous in the field.
Right.
But the surgeons are usually the residents for the most part. The critical part is the big name, but.
Well, how does that work? You said scores. So I'm curious, like, is this like a written test, or is this like I'm picturing like you're standing over like, an operation game, and you're like.
I was picturing them holding up brains, and then he had to identify whose brain they were.
Whose brain?
Yes.
That's the Abby normal.
I don't know what's happening, but I'm glad you guys are good.
That was a young Frankenstein.
Okay.
I'm sure in his field, I was not going to make the reference because I'm sure in his field that's
like
probably
an everyday
one
thing.
of the most common jokes he hears. But since he brought it up, he's alive.
There's steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, and it really doesn't determine how good a physician, a surgeon, or a doctor you're going to be. But, the fancy residencies, you need to have high written scores on that to get your foot in the door. There's another part where you actually interact with actors, but, that actually should be the most important one. But it's thrown, you don't know how to talk to people, whatever, but you can cut.
Well, that's fascinating.
Wow.
Might be a little insight into why sometimes surgeons don't have the best bedside manner too. Maybe that's a little insight. I mean, I don't know. I guess if you're the person getting cut on, like having the skill to cut is probably more.
That
important.
would trump being able to talk to people.
Yeah, definitely. We always have talked about, Tom and I have talked about this many times, that you have to have a lot of confidence, though, to be a surgeon. And I would think even more so whenever you're cutting up somebody's brain, because it's so like, there's so much going on in there.
Yeah.
Like,
need to have the confidence, have the ego, but I felt like you have to, keep it in check. And I think that's why I relate to a lot of patients more than some of my colleagues, because it was a struggle to get where I was. And, I didn't come from a line of doctors. I had to work. And, I've always tried to remember where I came from and be able to relate to patients and, not use fancy words to intimidate them, but break it down to a level that everyone can understand.
Yeah, you seem very, very down to earth in that. So that's one of the reasons I asked, because I know you do have to have a lot of confidence to go cutting on anybody. I could never do that. So thank you for what you do. That's amazing.
Oh, thanks.
So backing up a little bit in your career,
Tom's taking a left turn.
Yeah. So the first time they put a scalpel in your hand and they're like, have at it. What was that like?
Oh, my heart is racing. Not as much as being on a podcast. Public speaking is really making me nervous right now.
No.
So funny. Jerry Seinfeld has a great joke where he talks about he's like the number one fear of Americans is public speaking. He's like number 2 is death. And he's like, so that means for the average American, if they're at a funeral, they would rather it be their own than to give the eulogy.
Which is funny because I've never given a eulogy. I would be freaking out. That's true. I would not want to give a eulogy.
I've given 2 of them.
I know you have.
Yeah.
And I crushed it.
But definitely the nerves are racing, but they know when you're ready or not. They're not going to put you in a situation that's dangerous for any patient, and you're doing better when it's later in the case when the attending would come in, that they've watched you and they've seen that you know what you're doing and it's going safely. But yeah, the first one I made the incision too deep and they were like, just tell us if you don't know what you're doing. Let's slow down here. And, held my hand and brought me through. I had a great training.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was immediately wondering like how you know how deep to cut. Like, is that something you practice before you like?
Yeah, there's skills labs, and, they've gone with virtual training now, but there's, cutting on pig's feet and suturing and things like this. So yeah, we're not just thrown in right away. That was more when I talked about in med school, is really observing.
Gotcha.
For the most part.
Gotcha.
But when you think about it, like somebody did it first, right? You go back far enough, there was somebody that was like, give me a knife. Let's get in there and see what it looks like.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Let's get under the hood, even though there weren't hoods yet, right? Couldn't have even been a metaphor. But like somebody had to be like, yeah, I'll just slice a bitch open, see what it looks like. That's crazy.
It is.
It's because of those people that, we are where we are today.
Absolutely.
Obviously come a long way, but the outcomes were not very good when surgery first started.
So whenever you went through this process that I'm sure took several years, did you find that you were losing your health, your well-being throughout?
Yeah, when I was accepted to med school, and it's part of that picture I posted on the Peloton page, some of my classmates said, "You're the strongest nerd I've ever met." And I was working out, eating healthy, and doing great. And then, the 100 hours a week, when you get home, I'm not going to go to the gym. There was no Peloton at that time.
Right.
There was not. We lived in a small apartment in Boston, so not enough room for a home gym. And it's just sleep, eat, drink to get through that weekend and repeat it.
Yeah.
My first thought was like, wait, did you intern at St. Alicia's?
I know, that's what I was thinking too.
Where's St. Alicia's?
Oh, that's the name of the hospital in St. Elsewhere, which it takes place in Boston.
And
so
we just recently rewatched the entire
we just rewatched the whole
It's just
season.
a little past me.
Past
me St. Elsewhere. I was too young.
Because you were actually studying instead of watching television.
Yeah.
I think is really
No, television is my favorite. Like, we've moved several times, and the first thing I do before unpacking is set up the TV.
Oh, that's an important thing. Like, you got to have everything ready to go, because when you finally get to sit down in your new home
after moving,
the last thing you want to do is not be able to use your television. So that is very important. So do you love or hate or are completely ambivalent about like doctor shows?
I loved them before, now it's hard to not point out, well, that's ridiculous, and that doesn't happen.
I bet that's so
totally
true.
Are there any doctor shows that you watch that you're like, they get it, that they're doing pretty good?
They're always, you can tell they've consulted and they have some of it, but they dramatize it a little bit.
Sure.
And I always said that, it's just like Grey's Anatomy, except more people are sleeping with each other.
They're just not as good looking. There's more sex, but it's uglier.
That's not true. I'm going to get in trouble for that one.
So, is there like one kind of pet peeve that all of those shows kind of get wrong that irritate? Is there like a something you see them get wrong over and over again that drives you crazy?
Well, that, medicine is so specialized, but the star of the show usually can do brain surgery on one day and then heart surgery the next, and then can figure out what infectious disease is killing everyone. And, they know everything.
I can see why that would be a pet peeve.
We've all become so specialized. It's like, you don't ask me a heart question because it's like asking an electrician a plumbing question.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
Totally. It was just funny because I was thinking about like I love WKRP. That's one of the things made
He just said St. Elite, like that show was too
It's a little older than me, but I know the show.
Okay.
So it is a show that like made me want to work in radio, right? And so, but like now I go back and watch it, and the thing that drives me crazy whenever they're on the air, they almost never have headphones on.
Which
and
would not be.
I'm like, you wouldn't hear a thing. You wouldn't hear the music you're playing. You wouldn't know when to start or stop talking, or how if you played the right record. They almost never have headphones on. I'm just thinking like he has all this hyper medical knowledge. And I'm just like, oh, my thing is don't wear headphones.
Well, I'm glad I ran and got, these are the Peloton headphones. I'm like, I don't have headphones. I remember your message was like, make sure you have headphones. These are the only ones because they don't match the new iPhone. So I had to go.
Well, they sound
ones.
great. You know, it's so nice whenever you have the headphones on, because if you don't have headphones on, we can hear ourselves on your side.
Yeah, there could be echoes and delays and stuff. Totally.
So like literally right before I joined, I was like, oh, the headphones.
Well, thank you for putting those in.
Yes, thank you.
So as you got into Peloton, how did it help you with your getting in shape journey? Was that the only thing you were doing? Were you focused on changing your diet? What were you doing? What worked?
I love how there's all these diets out here, but there's science. There's only one way you're going to lose weight, and it's if you burn more calories than you consume in a day. And however you can do that is the way you're going to lose weight. And part of it is kind of a four-pronged attack I had at it is trying to do the 30 minutes of exercise every day. If you follow my leaderboard, you can see that I'm not doing 30 minutes a day, but when you have a good day, go longer. When you need a day off, you need to take that off or you're going to burn yourself out. And I think that's what was happening in the past. I have found the intermittent fasting has been helpful, doing an 11 to 7 window. And people think it's so hard to skip breakfast. That's not the hard thing. It's hard not to sit and eat a bag of potato chips and pretzels while we're watching TV right before bed. And you know, that was hard for the first few weeks, but you kind of get used to it. And this one's going to be tough for you, Tom, but skipping dessert and cutting back on alcohol and switching to, you know, clears and no mixers, you know, reducing those empty calories.
I've always felt fortunate that like I said, I'm not a big drinker because it's not. That would be, if I enjoyed that would just be more calories I'd be pouring literally onto myself already. And
not dessert? Don't you like dessert?
Of course I like dessert. I'm a human being.
What's funny about Tom with his desserts, though, is that like when he's on one of his kicks of like, I will lose weight now, he doesn't eat any carbs. And that includes desserts.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's crazy how disciplined he can be, but also he eats 0 fruits and vegetables, like 0. So I don't know how he's still alive because I've never seen him eat a fruit, a vegetable, and I've never seen him drink a glass of water. I don't know what's happening.
If you cut me open, I'm made entirely of rickets.
We need to study you.
I would have made a great pirate, except I'm just not tough. But except for that, I'd have been a great pirate. But I do the intermittent fasting thing too. 11 to 7, I do the same window, and skipping breakfast is easy. It's just sitting down to watch TV, and you just want to, munch.
Yeah,
and everyone around you is eating, but it's that willpower that you got that you got to stick with it. I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just totally curious question. I was thinking about the fact intermittent fasting, the hard part for me is breakfast because, breakfast, it's all hard for me. It's just sitting still is hard for me and not eating. So I was thinking about when I'm at work and I always want to eat while I start my day. That's what I want to do is like have my breakfast while I sit there. And then that made me think about like, again, thinking of TV shows and how they portray surgeons. Like you guys just go in and like you have conversations at hospitals and then you like just walk into the surgery and just start cutting on people. So like, is that really how your day goes? Do you spend most of your day in surgery or do you spend most of your day doing paperwork? Is it half and half? Does it depend on the day?
Yeah. It's, in order to have those surgeries to do, unless they're emergencies, you got to meet those patients. So the way we run our practice is there's 2 days of clinic where you're seeing patients in the office, going over their scans with them, examining them, coming up with treatment plans, and then 2 days for operating.
Okay. That's very reasonable.
And what's the average length of time for a surgery? I mean, I know that there's exceptions on either end of that spectrum, but
yeah, it really depends on, what surgery it is. Some surgeries we do are under a half hour. Some brain tumors, during residency and, more recently, we've had some big tumors. It can actually take over 24 hours.
Whoa.
Sometimes you need to, take a break, have the patient remain intubated and come back the next day. But, typically in a private practice like ours, the window is going to be anywhere from an hour to 3 hours for most cases.
Okay.
Gotcha. And are you like, for lack of a better term, you like in there the whole time, or is there like, you are actually like surgery in?
Yeah,
the whole time? Or is there like kind of like some downtime where you're doing other stuff, or things where you're waiting for certain things to happen to check to see if it's cool to
Right. There are cases where, you're by yourself without an assistant and you're there the whole time. We tend to operate as partners, and if one needs a break, the other can keep going. Or as you said, there's times when we send out a specimen, we're waiting for the pathologist and, waiting to see if it's okay to proceed, or do we have enough where we can stop? But for the most part, it's surgerizing the whole time. Yeah.
So I got the word right. See, you were making fun of me, but
I think he just went with it.
No, he didn't.
Pretty sure
So
that's what happened.
Do you ever get tired of saying the following? Well, I mean, I'm no brain surgeon. Oh, wait.
Well, I like to add a level to that because I was lucky enough to train at Harvard. So I'm like, well, that's not how we did it at Harvard Brain Surgery School.
Nice.
Wow, that's a lot of dropping.
Yeah.
But I save the H-bomb until someone's really, uppity and they need to be put in their place.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
That's great because that's a great 1-2 punch, right? Like you got the brain surgery, and then if they're still going to be a little shit, you'd be like,
Harvard
boom, Harvard.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I don't know.
Down.
That's not how we did it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I went to Harvard State. Does that count?
Okay, back to Peloton.
Yeah.
So when you start, I saw that. Thank you.
It took 4 years to get this.
Well,
you became a brain surgeon faster.
That's true. That's funny. So whenever you kind of like, okay, you're all in on Peloton. So did you have like an instructor that was like, that was your go-to that kind of changed everything for you? Or is it just, you just were like, I am going to do this now, and you stayed focused?
I stayed focused, but I do have an instructor, and you can check my rides. It's all about Jess King. There's a huge crush.
Does that mean you're a runner now too? Since she switched to, she's added.
I don't do the tread yet. Part of the reason that I was like, I have to do something is I hurt my knee going to the store to pick up beer.
Oh.
And I was like, if I don't change here, I'm going to need knee surgery. I say beer to be cool. It was actually White Claws, but don't tell anyone.
I was just thinking, at least it happened doing something you love.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And so I've still been a little afraid to go back to running because the bicycle's not as hard on your knees as the tread would be.
Absolutely.
He's probably like, and you don't want those knee surgery guys in there mucking around. You can't get some guy who couldn't cut it as a brain surgeon in there doing God knows what. No.
He's like, I am not saying that at all. And I hope that no one that I work with is listening to this.
And you find out he went to some community college. Not the big H like I did. It's awful.
But even when I started back in 2017, it was always with Jess. And for Nicole, my wife's 100th ride, we went to the studio in New York. Nice. And we wanted to do a live ride with her.
Yeah.
Quick funny story. So obviously everyone tries to get a picture, and I don't know if she had a class before, but she came out and my wife was like, you got to talk to her. I'm too nervous. We were like starstruck. And she's like, you got to go up to her. So there's a little juice bar there in the studio, and Jess is going to get it. And I just throw up. I'm like, hey. And she's like, hi, bye, and ran away. And I realized I was the creepy old man. I'm sure she doesn't even remember, and she didn't mean anything by it. She was probably busy getting ready for the next class. I told her, she's like, you blew it.
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm sure that's what happened, that she had a back-to-back class and she didn't have time.
Yeah.
Your wife should take solace in the fact that you're not good at picking up women.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Like ultimately, that's an upside. She should bring her comfort.
Yeah, that's been made clear to me throughout my life. My brother's best man speech commented heavily on that.
It's been a theme, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So your wife really has nobody to blame but herself that she didn't get to meet.
Exactly. She's the one that said yes. I still don't know how. I must have confused her, but she's stuck now.
That's funny. Honestly, you guys probably went so far back that you didn't get to the part where now they have this system that they come out right after class and they have everybody lined up. So I think you guys probably went early on.
It was 2017.
Yeah. So back then there were no bodyguards.
Yeah.
There were no anything. It was just kind of like helter skelter. Everybody just did, because it was so low key, it was fine. Mm-hmm. And now it's right now it's nothing because of COVID, but but whenever it pops back in, it's like, there's this line. As soon as they come out of class, they go and they freshen up, and then they come out and they do pictures, and they have a little spot all set up for that now. So, I'm sure if you ever get a chance to go back, you will be able to get your picture.
Oh, great.
We're allowed to leave the house again.
I know, right? I'm hoping 2021 is going to be the year we all get to leave our houses again.
Not right away, unfortunately.
I know. Yeah.
Well, you got to be loaded for bear, man. You probably got masks coming out of your ears as a surgeon, like you.
Yeah. Well, it's running short even in the hospitals.
Wow. Are they still?
It's better with the PPE now, but now we just don't have enough beds and places to put patients. So
it's crazy times.
It's
crazy times.
Scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second wave was worse 100 years ago. It's not going to be different this time either.
Yeah. If only there was a way to know these things were. Oh, there is a way.
We'll bite our tongues. Right?
Yeah. That's probably for the best. Yeah. So, what is your leaderboard name for those who may not know?
Oh, the Cookie Monster with an A at the end.
Because he's street.
Well, I don't know if it was because from being in Boston for a bit, and
it can work that way too.
But I think it was because it wouldn't let me put ER at the end because there's so many letters you can use or something. But
yeah,
I actually got it from, I don't think she's with Peloton anymore, Jennifer Jacobs.
Yeah.
One of her early rides, and she just looked into the camera and was like, "Come on, Cookie Monster, take me all the way to Sesame Street." And I'm like, "That's it. My first ER."
Awesome.
Yeah. Good thing you didn't go with Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah. That's true.
Or Snuffleupagus, because she wouldn't have seen you.
Oh my word.
And
so
being that I enjoyed cookies a lot, and at the time it kind of fit because I was just the fat guy on the bike for a while there.
So do you have any advice for people who are just now getting their bike?
Yeah, I think part of the problem that hurt me in the beginning, well, I guess I heard on one of your podcasts that they only did 45-minute rides in the beginning, and I'd always try to do 45 minutes and it would knock me out, and then I'd need like 3 days off, and then that fourth day I'm like, I'm not going back, and you're starting the cycle again of just getting bad habits. So there's no shame in starting with the beginner classes, doing only 10-15 minutes of whatever you feel is good, and you'll see yourself building up and coming back and being able to do more and more.
Yes, that's great advice. Yeah, that is great advice.
And you're a doctor. You could literally make that a prescription.
Yeah, but it's been, studies have shown you can get your heart rate up 30 minutes a day. You're going to live longer and be healthier.
Awesome.
So any way you need to get that done, even walking doesn't have to be on the bike. Although, I found this to be the quickest way to get that, those calories off.
And it's fun. It's more fun.
Oh, so fun. It's so fun. Definitely.
So real quick, before we let you go, I'm just curious. So you said that, the studies show that get your heart rate up 30 minutes a day is good for your heart. Is there something people can do every day that is good for your brain?
Yeah, constantly using it. Just like, exercise, you need to exercise your muscles, simple things, word puzzles, just constantly challenging your brain, reading, trying to learn something new every day. Even as a neurosurgeon, every case we learn something new. There's constantly, as long as your brain is trying to incorporate new information and learn those facts, it's going to stay healthy. This from the guy who the first thing I do is set up my TV, which isn't helping my brain, but
it depends on the kind of show you watch, though, right?
That's true. That's true.
I think it also depends on how you watch a show.
Yeah.
Right? Because there are some shows that are just kind of mindless and you let them kind of roll over you, but there's other shows that can really engage you, even not necessarily educational, but like I'm just thinking of a show like Lost. There was so much going on. You had to actively watch that show, pay attention, connect threads and plot points. Like I would think if you were in an MRI, your brain would be lighting up in a totally different way watching a show like that versus the real world.
Yeah. I agree with that. Also, the way we watch Dateline, we're always trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
We become investigators.
Yes. We're solving them.
I remember
all the time.
Lost was that first show that we binged, and I drove to 3 different Hollywood videos and Blockbusters to find season 3 so that we could watch it. This is before everything was on demand. But
totally.
Yeah, that was definitely engaging. I loved it. And he was a neurosurgeon. So
that's right. He was. Of course. Yeah. That show was I was so disappointed in the ending, but it was such a fun ride.
Yeah, they have a trouble finishing shows. It seems like that in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Oh, don't even.
Yeah, she loved the books, and by about season 3, she's like, "I'm done. If you are."
I had to bail because they screwed it up. The books are completely different, and I can't even. I cannot.
Yeah, she was just like, "I'm good with stopping unless you want to keep watching." And I'm like, I was only watching for the boobs, and so I'm like, I can just Google that.
My concern is, I'm like, is this dude ever going to finish these books so I can read the actual way that it was supposed to happen? I'm like, I mean,
I heard he got ill, so I'm not sure we're going to get it, but I definitely will read it. As soon as he puts it out, he'd make tons of money.
I think that's the problem. He's already made tons of money.
Yeah, true.
His incentive, his demand.
And there's such a fan base that they're going to tear him apart. Whatever he does, it's not going to make a group happy.
That's
true. You got that right.
Yeah, we're familiar with that sometimes. So I guess before we let you go, where can people find you if you would like to be found?
Oh, yeah. Our group is at tylerneuro.com, on Facebook at Tyler Neurosurgical Associates. You can interact with us that way. If you want to follow me, I'm Dr. Nalbach on Instagram and Stephen Vincent on Facebook, but it's basically family pictures and vacation trips. Occasionally, I'll share some of the stories that our practice does of patient stories and good outcomes and just, some happiness in this world of sadness and loneliness in our homes.
Totally.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. We greatly appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thanks for having me. I'll see you on the leaderboard.
Definitely. Have a great weekend.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So I guess that brings this episode to a close. What, pray tell, do you have in store for people next week?
Well, one of two things. We're either going to talk to Robin January or we're going to have an interview with a very interesting company. Something very a little different than we typically do.
Okay.
We could be interviewing MetPro, which we'll talk about when that happens.
Okay.
But I'm not exactly sure how the timing is going to work out. So
gotcha. So
might be Robin, might be MetPro.
Okay.
We'll see.
So until then, where can people find you?
People can find me at facebook.com/Crystal D. O'Keefe. They can find me on Instagram, Twitter, The Bike, and of course the tread at Clip Out Crystal.
And you can find me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. You can find the show online, facebook.com/The Clip Out. While you're there, what are you doing?
I got lots of energy.
You do. You're just like bouncing around like crazy. It reminds me of, how whenever the Muppets finish a number, they all look around and nod at each other with their mouths open. That's what That's what you look like right now. Yeah. So where was I at? Facebook.com/theclipout. While you're there, like the page, join the group. Don't forget, you can check out our YouTube channel, which you really want to, so you can see Crystal imitating a Muppet right now. YouTube.com/theclipout, and sign up for our newsletter at theclipout.com. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep peddling.
And running. I really hope John Mills doesn't turn that into a GIF.